1950. What does it mean in 20th century Britain to be a woman? Can she develop her individual talents? Can she help to create the kind of society she wants? Or does she still look upon marriage as the sole purpose of her existence?
After the war, the British economy required women to work in low and semi-skilled jobs due to the boom in British manufacturing. However, for most women in the 1950s, the role of homemaker and mother ranked higher than that of career woman. Amber's 15 and from Isleworth in West London.
I've learned about women and what their lives were like during this period, but I'd like to learn more about their work. I'd like to start by speaking to my great-grandmother, Betty, about how she lived during this time.
Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right.
Betty Dodd was born in 1921. She left school at 14 and worked almost continuously until she was 55 in 2 processed food factories.
Straighten up and fly right.
I was about 15.
Oh, my
15,
age.
yeah. Yeah, about your age, yeah.
Imagine me working in the factory.
Yeah. Yeah, 15. That's where we done the cheeses, little portions of cheeses. Oh, and we done salad cream there as well. I forgot about that. We done salad cream. Yeah, and you had to be very quick at it or the bottles used to break. They're all friends there. You got a little bit more money than what you did in a shop.
What did you make in the Walls factory?
In Walls, we done sausages and bacon, pies. We weighed them and then scaled them, linked them, and then, you know, wrapped them up.
When Betty married at 17 in 1938, she continued to work full-time. She returned to work part-time in 1947 when her son was 5 years old.
We wanted things for the home, so went to work to get a little bit extra for the home.
What was the biggest thing you bought with your money that you earned?
Well, it was like washing machines and fridges and that, because they were very expensive in those days. They were like electric washing machine, but then they had a wringer and you had to wring that by hand. Then it'd go in the sink and you had to rinse it, yeah. We both sort of helped to pay for the car.
Did you purchase it from hire purchase?
No, because we didn't believe in getting in debt. So we used to save up and then buy it.
Why did you choose to go part-time?
Well, it was handy for me, because him going to school and then I was home when he come home. I didn't want to work full-time, it's too much. Looking after a house and a family.
Did you get paid the same as the men?
No. Men got a little bit more than what women did.
Do you think that was fair?
That was the way it was in those days, yes.
Amber wants to know how typical her nan's experiences were and is meeting a specialist in women's studies, Dr. Claire Langhamer.
For most women, the expectation was that they would work once they left school for a period of time, but then that they would marry, have a family, and that would be their primary job. So, as you say, your nan thinking that her job was being a housewife, a housewife and a mother. I think that was the expectation, and that doesn't mean that they didn't work outside the home, as your nan's experience shows, but that was something they did to benefit the family.
Amber's interested to know about the challenges faced by women wanting a career. So she's going to see 82-year-old Patricia Barrett, who left school to work as a clerk in a city bank and chose not to marry.
I really wanted to be an architect, but my father was all for having a safe job for his daughter, because he had come through the Depression years when lots of people lost their jobs, and he kept his. And so he felt that to go into a similar bank to the one he was in would be much better for me.
Did you stay in banking?
Yes, for 34.5 years. So...
Was that what you'd wanted to do, or was that just...
Well, it became so. You got used to it and felt that perhaps the aspirations to be an architect receded, but it took a bit of time. When you're not very happy, you think, well, never mind. When I get out, I'm going to play tennis or be on the river. So you thought about that when you're filing or doing something boring.
Were married women treated any differently to single women in the bank where you worked?
Yes, they most certainly were, because once they went away to get married, they either resigned or they were re-employed on a temporary basis. I have stressed to the management that I was making it a career, and it wasn't just filling in time. I mean, by then they must have realised I wasn't going to go away and get married, but even so, I didn't want to have a sort of dead-end job. I wanted to, well, ascend the ladder however high I could get.
Though Patricia did ascend the ladder to become a section head within the bank's securities department, her gender caused her to be overlooked for foreign postings.
This is a garden party for the Mercantile Bank, which was my first bank. There were wives and children, as you see. And the building in the background was actually a rather posh hostel for all these young men who were going east. And so if they had, you know, they'd come from different parts of the country, they could stay there. And so they had grounds. There we are, that's me with my best summer frock.
Nice dress.
Yes. They had to be trained in London, and then they had to do their banker's exams, which the girls didn't have to do. It's not compulsory bit. I cheerfully thought, you know, I'd be doing my banker's exams.
Yeah.
But I was told not to worry about that, and so I never did.
Did men get paid the same amount?
No, it was not equal pay in those days.
Was that something you were upset about, or how did
No, you accepted it because that was the norm in every field. Men got more than women.
For the same job?
Yes, yes. I think we were fairly, well, happy with our lot, shall we say.
Women who left to have children, was it quite difficult for them to get jobs?
It was extremely difficult for them. In the years before the Second World War, in a lot of jobs, there were actually formal marriage bars.
Yeah.
So as soon as you said, I'm going to get married, that was it, end of your job. Mm-hmm. And that kind of suspicion of married women and this idea that they're just going to go off and have children persists into the years after the Second World War. But, of course, as your nan's experience suggests, that doesn't mean that women weren't working.
Yeah.
But they invested different meanings in the work that they did. And I think women were always seen as different types of workers. I mean, Patricia's experience is a less usual experience. Most women did marry in our period. I mean, some people have called it the golden age of marriage, and there was that expectation. Then, in the early 70s, it just stops, you know, and the marriage rate starts declining quite rapidly.
Yeah.
So, and I think, for me, that's the key shift, that sense that you don't have to marry, you know? And you might find all sorts of other ways of organising your life.
It was quite surprising finding out about my nan. Knowing this younger version of her was quite strange, but it was quite good to find out about her past experiences and things that happened to her in her lifetime. The most surprising thing was that women didn't stand up against anything. Kind of like they put their view lower down, like it kind of wasn't about what they wanted at that time. And I think as time progressed, they realised that they could speak out and campaign for change, which they eventually did.